Hi there, Mr. Johnston here. I am gonna, in this short video, explain a couple of things about what we are doing in class today. So with my shared screen, you can see, starting with our goal, your job in class today is to demonstrate what you know about biodiversity. We've been talking about this for a few class periods now, and based on what I've seen and heard, I think you all are ready to show exactly what you know, and I'm excited to see your thoughts. The plan for class today is first to review, second to complete a CER where you will be demonstrating what you know, and 3 and 4, the survey and vocabulary, are independent tasks you will complete after the CER. Number 5, the reading, we're actually going to push that to next week, so you can ignore number 5. This video will serve as step 1, the review. The remaining 2, 3, and 4 steps you will complete on your own, but I'll be sure to give some instructions on how that's going to work before I end this recording. So to review, there are 3 key ideas with biodiversity we're going to examine, or I'm going to talk about in this video. First, the definition of biodiversity. Second, how we calculate the Biodiversity Index. This is what we did with that bead activity when we were counting the species in the different beakers. And 3, we're going to look at what's a little more detailed for the key ideas, but important, how losing a species can affect an ecosystem, particularly biodiverse ecosystems. So number 1, or key idea number 1, the definition. The number and variety of living things found is in a specific region, that should say in a specific region, such as a small pond, a grassy field, a desert, or all of Earth, is called biodiversity. Now, I want to call your attention to 2 words in this definition. We see the number and variety. When we say number, we're talking about how many organisms or how many living things are in an area. If we only have 2 or 3 or 4, even 5 organisms, that cannot be biodiverse because there are so few living things. When we start seeing more than 10, 20, or even more organisms, that's when we can start measuring biodiversity. The second important word here is variety. When we say variety, we mean different kinds. Specifically, we mean different species of living things. So that could be, for example, different kinds of fish, different kinds of underwater plants. That could be different kinds of plants around the edge of a small pond, for example. When we have more than 5 or 10 organisms and multiple species, different kinds of organisms, that's when we can start measuring biodiversity. Now, speaking of measuring biodiversity, that's when we get to something called the Biodiversity Index. The Biodiversity Index is just a single number that tells us as scientists, is the area we're studying, is it very biodiverse? Are there many organisms of different species? Or is it not very biodiverse? Are there fewer organisms or fewer species? In this example, we have some data from the tundra, which looks like this. In the tundra, scientists in a 50 square meter space calculated, or better said, measured the types of species or organisms that they observed. Now, to calculate the Biodiversity Index, you need 2 things. First, the number of species in a place. Here we can see polar bears, Arctic foxes, seagulls, bearded seals, and ringed seals. Those are 5 different animals or 5 different species. So the number 5 we will need. Second, we need to know the number of organisms in a place. To do that, we would just add up the number of individual organisms that were counted. So 2 plus 3 plus 7 plus 6 plus 8 is 26. So to calculate the Biodiversity Index of this specific area of the tundra, you would divide 5 species by 26 organisms, 26 individuals. The number we get when we run that calculation, 5 divided by 26, is 0.192307, and it goes on. We don't need that many numbers. We're going to focus on the first 2 digits after the decimal point, 0.19. 0.19 is the Biodiversity Index. Now, you may remember from class that the closer a biodiversity index is to 0, the less biodiverse that place. The closer to 1, the more biodiverse a place is. So when we look at places like a coral reef or a rainforest, for example, those will have a higher biodiversity index because there are more organisms and more different species. Finally, key idea number 3 is the effect of losing a species, maybe by extinction, maybe by overhunting, or even something else, on an ecosystem that is biodiverse. This is data gathered from a rainforest. This was studied by scientists, and a small section was, the organisms were counted in this small area of the rainforest. Using the key, we can see the organisms that were counted, and over time, we can see the changes in population. Now, if you look very closely at this blue section, the darker blue, it represents harpy eagles. We can see that harpy eagles disappeared, or that population was erased. It was overhunted, or maybe it was extinct in this particular region. We can see that we lose that, but over time, pay attention to the other pieces of the pie chart. Does the light blue change very much? Does the orange or purple or green change very much over time? No. We can see in a biodiverse ecosystem, the loss of one species does not immediately cause the total destruction or disaster in an ecosystem. Because there are multiple kinds of living things here, the ecosystem is actually pretty strong. It's pretty balanced. So losing an organism or losing a population, a group of organisms in a biodiverse place can cause problems, but a biodiverse ecosystem will fare much better than an ecosystem that is not biodiverse. Now, that is our review. I can't answer your questions because I'm recording a video, but I trust that you will send them to me, ask a neighbor, use your resources to answer the questions. You can also rewatch this video. Now, I have some directions for how you will complete your CER. If you are in the classroom, what you will do when I instruct you to is you will receive your CER, where you will answer with details. You will also receive a resource paper that will help you answer the CER. After completing that CER, you will turn in those materials, and you will then begin the survey, which is posted in Canvas, and you will start on your vocabulary for what we're going to learn next week. Now, if you were watching this video because you were not in our class for some reason, here are your directions. They are different. I will be posting an online version of the CER on Canvas. You may make a copy of it, and you may send it directly to my email. Or if there's a better way to send it to me, I trust you to deliver it to me. That was a review with some instructions. I appreciate your attention. And of course, if you need anything, please, please, please let me know. I'm really excited to see what you all share when we're talking about biodiversity.